Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Excellencies, fellow participants at the Shangri-La Dialogue 2024, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, good friends, it is indeed a great honor for me to stand for the third consecutive time in the Shangri-La Dialogue here in Singapore. We gather here as leaders, as policymakers in the defense, security, and political field to engage in meaningful discussions which are crucial for enhancing peace and stability in our connected world. Sometimes we feel reluctant to attend these occasions because there is a danger that we do not communicate honestly and do not interact faithfully. We state our positions and we do not want to listen to opinions of others. However, today we are in a particularly sensitive moment in history. We are witnessing an increase in geopolitical tensions and continuous challenges of multilateralism due to the gravity and intensity of open conflict, blatant violations of international law, and the continued widening trust deficits between states. Distinguished participants, friends, now there is a lot of talk about the rule of law, rules-based order, etc., etc. But the geopolitical tension, the conflicts, the incidents that are happening as we sit here gives rise to disillusionment amongst many countries, especially the global south. Indonesia is of the opinion that in this world of ours that's getting smaller and smaller, collaboration, cooperation, compromise, respect for the national interest, the core concerns of others are very important in pursuing peace, security, stability, and the prosperity. We are convinced that only dialogue and cooperation can be the effective tools for achieving these goals in our planet, which in reality has become smaller and smaller. Collaboration is the only way to achieve prosperity and harmony. Indonesia is firmly committed to deepening inclusive dialogue, concrete collaboration, as well as upholding international laws, especially respect for the national sovereignty of all states and the territorial integrity as enshrined in the United Nations Charter. Excellencies, the persistent conflicts around the world, most notably in Ukraine and Palestine, highlight the imperative for our continuous commitment to diplomatic dialogue and underscore the importance of international solidarity in our search for peaceful solutions. It is evident that without sustained and genuine global cooperation, achieving lasting peace in these regions will continue to be a formidable challenge. I wish to address the recent tragic events in Rafah, in Gaza, which have resulted in numerous innocent casualties, including children, women, unarmed civilians. These heartbreaking incidents compel us to urgently call for comprehensive investigation into this humanitarian disaster. Understanding the full extent of this tragedy is crucial to preventing such incidents from happening again. We are very aware that the Palestine problem is a long and historical problem. We are cognizant of the fact that both sides have legitimate concerns for their safety, for their right to exist, and for their prosperity. We are also cognizant of the fact that the resolution of this crisis must consist of mutual respect for the rights and the concerns of all parties. There cannot be a single narrative that is legitimate. As is often been repeated, Indonesia calls for a just solution to the problem, and that means the right of not only Israel to exist, but also the right of the Palestinian people to have their own homeland, their own state, living in peace. I would like now to comment on the most recent developments in the region. Why this is important for us? Because Indonesia is part of the Islamic world. Although physically we are not of the region, but what happens in the Middle East, what happens in Gaza, affect the concern of the Indonesian people. Regarding the most recent development that we have just noted, that we have just heard, that is the most recent announcement by President Biden of the United States of America on comprehensive proposals for a ceasefire in Gaza. Although we have to further study the details of this proposal put forward and announced by President Biden, we do view this proposal as an important right step in the direction that we have to go. We view this as an important step forward. We are very pleased of news reports that representatives of Hamas has also voiced a positive response to these proposals. I would like also to express today Indonesia's commitment to support a comprehensive and permanent ceasefire as an important step towards a real and lasting solution, towards real peace between Israel and Palestine, and thus real peace in the region. It has been our conviction, along with many other states in the world today, that the only real solution to a lasting peace and security for both Israel and Palestine is a two-state solution. Indonesia supports all efforts and all measures that can fasten the progress towards that final two-state solution. In the meantime, we are prepared to do whatever we can to provide humanitarian assistance, as well as, when needed and when requested by the United Nations, we are prepared to contribute significant peacekeeping forces to maintain and monitor this prospective ceasefire, as well as providing protection and security to all parties and to all sides. We are also prepared to immediately send medical personnel to operate field hospital in Gaza with the consent and agreement of all sides. We are in discussions with our partners to expedite the deployment of this medical personnel. Indonesia also is very willing to evacuate and treat wounded Palestinian civilians and those needing hospital care in Indonesian hospitals. President Joko Widodo has instructed me to announce that we are ready to evacuate, to receive, and to treat with medical care up to 1,000 patients in the immediate future. This positive move towards a comprehensive peace, towards a permanent ceasefire, in the active and effective pursuit of a lasting solution to the present problem, must be supported by the whole international community. Let us work together towards that goal. 1 year ago, in the last Shangri-La dialogue that I attended, I also proposed an immediate ceasefire, a cessation of hostilities in place in the Ukrainian situation. Since that time, many thousands more lives have been lost on both sides, including many, many innocent civilians. After 1 year, I'm still convinced that my proposal remains logical, relevant, and necessary. Necessary as an intermediate solution to this difficult, dangerous, one might even say potentially disastrous situation in the Ukraine. Yes, Indonesia is far from the region, but we view with deep sadness the humanitarian suffering, the geopolitical and economic ramifications that has impacted the whole world, and yes, has impacted our own region. And of course, let us, as citizens of this world, citizens of this smaller planet, never lose sight of the dangers of escalation, the dangers of miscalculation, the danger of not understanding your adversary, of underestimating his legitimate interests. We must always be aware of the danger of escalation and the nightmare of nuclear war. Once again, I would like to reiterate my call for both sides to rise to the challenge of seeking a peaceful compromise in Ukraine for the sake of the people of Ukraine, the people of Russia, the people of Europe, and the people of the whole world. I'm convinced that real leaders will always opt for the best solution to protect their peoples. Ladies and gentlemen, in regard to our own region, the Indo-Pacific, especially Southeast Asia, we will always work towards collaboration, compromise, and cooperation. We call for restraint, patience, and caution to prevail amongst all the stakeholders in our region. Once again, we call upon the leaders of the great Chinese civilization, as well as the leaders of the United States and its Western allies, representing also the great Western civilization, to rise to the great responsibilities in their leadership role as global powers. We, the nations of this world, depend and rely and demand the wisdom, the statesmanship, and the benevolence of the great powers. We are convinced that the leaders of the great powers can coexist with each other, can cooperate, can collaborate in the pursuit of the common good of humanity. Great power, with great power comes great responsibilities. Our world has become smaller. Science and technology has given us the opportunity to better the livelihood of our peoples. But also, without wisdom, without benevolence, without goodwill, science and technology can also quickly bring disaster and catastrophe to our world. Nationalism must be balanced by humanity. Patriotism must be tempered by wisdom and respect for all fellow citizens of the world. Let us work towards that common good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President-elect. I might have added that you have such a long wait to become president because you were so successful as to win the elections in the first round. May I ask you the first question, and I might ask a second. The first question on the conflict in Ukraine, following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. President Zelensky is very much looking forward in a few weeks' time to holding a major international peace conference to achieve some of the aims that you outlined in your important remarks just now. Will Indonesia send a high-level delegation to that peace conference? And if so, have you decided who will lead it?
Well, sir, I have to remind you that I'm not yet the President of the Republic of Indonesia. And that is the authority of the current President of the Republic of Indonesia. So I think you have to ask that question to him.
Thank you very much. I'll turn to the audience for a couple of questions now, but I wanted to make certain that we had noted the remarkably important statement you made that the Republic of Indonesia is prepared, should the circumstances permit, to send peacekeeping troops to Gaza to sustain a ceasefire, and the important offer you made immediately to provide professional medical care to those who have suffered there. So thank you very much for that. I'll take a couple of questions before we close. So first, please, from Germany, Richard Walker.
Thank you very much. Mr. Defense Minister, you spoke eloquently about the responsibility of China and the United States and the broader West, of the great powers, in the competition that they are taking part in. One gets a strong sense that some countries in this region are very concerned about this sense that they're going to be forced to pick sides in the years ahead. Can you just reflect on that? And this is a criticism that I sometimes hear, particularly directed towards the United States. Is there anything you would like to say about that? Thank you.
And from Malaysia, Benedict Virasena.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister Prabowo, for that excellent remarks earlier. So I'd like to ask just two questions. In your opening remarks, you brought up the point that there are countries that have stated their positions, but do not want to listen to the opinion of others. Can I get a bit more elaboration on which countries are you referring to? And my second question, on a more serious note, with great power comes great responsibility. I totally agree with you. Indonesia is the largest Muslim majority country in the world and also predicted to be the 7th largest economy in the world by 2030. What do you see as Indonesia's rising responsibilities moving on in the next decade? Thank you.
Thank you. And from Timor-Leste, Iriana Freitas de Jesus Jimenez.
Thank you for the opportunity. So my question is, what is your position on the negotiation regarding land and maritime boundaries with Timor-Leste as a president-elect and soon to be a president? And also, it is become your priority agenda by expediting this process of negotiation in a good faith, move forward and leaving past behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, that's 4 questions, Bapak Prabowo, so go ahead, please.
Thank you. I think the first question from Mr. Richard Walker. What is our views concerning the US-China rivalry, or let's say competition? I think our views has been very well known by tradition, by history, by the political will of the Indonesian people. We must maintain a policy of non-alignment, of maintaining the best relations with all nations of the world. If we divide, let us say, the relationships within concentric spheres, the Indonesian policy, and one which I will promote, is the maintenance, the fostering, the enhancement of a good neighbor policy with all our neighbors. I've been convinced, personally as an amateur historian, that real security comes through very good relations between our immediate neighbors. This is part of our Asian culture. We must be close, friendly with our immediate neighbors. That's our culture in day-to-day life. Because if our neighbor's house gets burned, Who will help us? Will it be our cousin who lives in another city? Will it be our sibling who lives in another village? No, it will be the neighbor next to us. So this approach, along with my amateur study of history, convinces me that the Indonesian tradition of non-alignment, respect for all neighbors, respect for all countries, respect for all religion, all races, all cultures, all the great powers is the correct way, and this we will maintain. So, regarding the issues between China and United States, we will always promote all efforts to achieve coexistence, to achieve collaboration, to achieve compromise. We must convince all leaders of all these great powers that they must put the common good, the common security, the common wealth of the whole world as top priority. That, I think, is our position, that we believe by engagement, by respect, by communication, by negotiation, we can solve many of these problems. We have had before military conflict with our neighbors. In my lifetime, we had conflicts with Malaysia, with Singapore. But now we are the best of friends. We resolved our differences without interference from any external power. We resolved our differences. We put an end to fighting with Malaysia. We put an end to fighting with Singapore. Now we are like brothers. Now we are talking of making perhaps a land bridge between Singapore and Batam, a land bridge between Malaysia and Indonesia. This is our tradition. Cambodia resolved long conflicts. East Timor, for many years, I was involved in the East Timor conflict. Now, can anybody imagine that I will sit on the same table with President Ramos Horta? Can you imagine, maybe there's a photograph or a video last night, we were hugging each other, we were walking hand in hand, and he has invited me to East Timor. I'm thinking about it.
Thank you very much indeed, Bapak Prabowo, for that special address, for your answers to questions, for giving us the honor of your presence here. It was vital that we had this address from you this afternoon, and we all thank you for your efforts. And good luck for the presidency.
قبل جمهورية إندونيسيا برافو سوبيانو فليتفضل.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Your Majesty, King Abdullah II of Jordan, Your Excellency, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi of Egypt, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency President Mahmoud Abbas of the State of Palestine. On behalf of the government of Indonesia, I would like to thank Jordan, Egypt, and the United Nations for convening and hosting this crucial meeting. The government of Indonesia and the people of Indonesia express once again the strongest support for an independent and sovereign Palestine as the real solution to this conflict in Palestine and in Gaza. We look with the world today with horror, dismay, and astonishment at the fact that nations that consider themselves modern and civilized can perpetrate flagrant violations of international humanitarian law. The targeting of civilians and civilian infrastructure is in direct violation of the laws of modern warfare. We call on both sides to respect the laws of warfare. We call on all great powers to use their great influence to enforce the Convention of International Law. We call on the findings of the International Court of Justice to be enforced. The humanitarian catastrophe unfolding before our eyes must be addressed immediately. Indonesia was one of the first to support the proposals recently announced by the President of the United States, Mr. Biden. This calls for an immediate ceasefire and subsequent phases leading to a real and lasting solution to the Palestine issue. Indonesia is ready to contribute to all efforts that can lead to this ceasefire, this immediate ceasefire, and to take part in all the phases following such an immediate ceasefire. We will significantly increase our contributions to UNRWA and other immediate humanitarian assistance. We are ready to deploy more medical teams and a field hospital to operate in Gaza. We are also ready to once again deploy a hospital ship and also to deploy air assets to take part in airdrops when necessary. We are also willing to evacuate 1,000 patients to be treated in Indonesian hospitals and to be returned to Gaza once they recover and the situation in Gaza becomes normal. We are also willing to evacuate children and orphans to be given post-trauma treatment and schooling and to be returned back to Gaza when the situation becomes normal. Ladies and gentlemen, although we are willing to support and contribute to all these efforts, the final solution to this problem is a two-state solution. Only with a two-state solution, with Palestine and Israel living side by side in security and safety, can we resolve this problem. Thank you very much.
أشكر فخامة الرئيس برافو سوبيانو وأعطي الكلمة.
Your Excellency, thank you, and I give the floor right now to...
Thank you very much. It is my great honor today to address this G20 summit. It's my first summit. Your Excellency, President of the Federative Republic of Brazil, Mr. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, esteemed leaders of the G20, heads of international organizations, distinguished invitees. I would like to express our sincere gratitude and highest appreciation to President Lula for his leadership and his guidance in advancing the aspirations of the Global South at the G20 this year. I would like also to emphasize and to commend President Lula for putting poverty and hunger as the focal point of this G20 session. I myself have just been elected president of the fourth largest country in the world. We have the fourth largest population. Therefore, hunger and poverty is for us a real issue, a day-to-day matter. We have still sizable percentage of our people below the poverty line. We also have 25% of our children going hungry every day. I was elected on the issue of poverty and hunger. Therefore, I'm very happy to be involved in this G20 summit. For countries like Indonesia, to overcome poverty and hunger is a matter of vital national interest. Therefore, in my budget, I spend a very high percentage for education because I believe that education will bring us out of poverty. Education can bring better life for our people. Free meals for our children is a vital part of our strategy. This is also part of empowering our young to be able to grasp the benefits of education. Hunger, we are very optimistic that we can overcome hunger in Indonesia. I plan to overcome food shortage in 3 years. We will be self-sufficient in 4 years. And in 5 years, we are confident we can contribute to the global alliance against poverty and hunger. Economic issues cannot be separated from geopolitical affairs and geopolitical issues. We have discussed the role of conflict in the present international landscape. Indonesia supports the global South, and we also urge all countries of the G20 to address the issue of conflict. We urge urgently immediate ceasefire in Ukraine and in Gaza. Let us not hesitate to go forward and urge the participants in the region to achieve this ceasefire. For us, this is vital for the achievement of peace and stability. Only by peace and stability we can overcome poverty and hunger. We also urge countries of the G20 to use their collective strengths to strengthen multilateral efforts on this issue. Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished heads of government, heads of state, we convene today once again to condemn the outrageous violation of international law, the blatant and flagrant atrocities being carried out. But I would like to make some comments. We must see the situation for what it is, the reality of the situation. We will always say that we support.
أننا نقول دائما أننا ندعم فلسطين، ودائما ما نقول أننا ندعم لبنان وسوريا، ولكن ما هو الدعم؟ ما هي المساندة؟ لأننا كل القرارات المتخذة في الأمم المتحدة، كل الإعلانات لا تحترم ولن تحترم. ينبغي أن نرى الواقع بأن
countries are not respected. The Muslim population of the world is 2 billion people. 25% of the world are Muslims. We have vast resources, but we cannot unite. We quarrel among ourselves. And then when our brothers are being destroyed, then we give some declaration of support. And we send humanitarian aid. I'm sorry, this is my opinion. Let us see the reality. We must work to have close cooperation between us. We must work to have one voice and not to be divided. Divida et impera, that is the law of imperialism for thousands of years. And we are being divided every day. We see Sudan, Muslim leader against Muslim leader. We see Libya, Muslim leader against Muslim leader. We see Yemen, Muslim leader against Muslim leader. When will this end? How can we help the Palestinians if we quarrel among ourselves? Let us be honest. Let us be honest to our people. I'm sorry I have to say this, because I attend so many of the summits and all we do is give declarations of support. Indonesia will try to do its best in whatever we can do, but I call for unity. I call for cooperation. I call for let us, the Muslim countries, realize what is happening. We are not being respected. They do not care about our voice. Once again, I say they do not care about our voice. Human rights is not for Muslim people. This is the reality. This is very sad. Let us do what we can, but let us face reality and let us be honest with ourselves. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
The Antalya Diplomacy Forum so far. It is now my pleasure to welcome and introduce our distinguished guest for this ADF talk session, the President of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Pak Prabowo Subianto. Prabowo Subianto became Indonesia's 8th president in October 2024 after winning the presidential election earlier that year. A former military general and businessman, he received an international education before graduating from the Indonesian Military Academy in 1974 and quickly rose through the ranks of the Army's elite special forces. Transitioning to politics, he co-founded the Gerindra Party in 2008 and ran for president twice before he was appointed defense minister in 2019. 3 times, oh, I'm sorry. As leader of the world's 3rd largest democracy, Prabowo Subianto is committed to strengthening Indonesia's sovereignty, driving economic development, and navigating complex geopolitical challenges, all while drawing on his extensive experience and deep commitment to his nation's future. Bapak Presiden, selamat datang dan terima kasih telah bergabung bersama kita. Mr. President, welcome and thank you so much for joining us. Now, before I ask you my first question, Pak, I just wanted to mention that this holds a special significance for me as an Australian with Indonesian parents from the Karo Highlands in North Sumatra. So on their behalf, I would just like to say Mujua Jua, which is the warmest greeting that you can give in the Karo language. Now, Mr. President, as you know, this year's ADF is held under the theme Reclaiming Diplomacy in a Fragmented World. What does this phrase mean to you exactly in the current global context, and where do you see diplomacy falling short or potentially regaining strength in today's world?
Thank you. To be very frank, I tend to be now a bit pessimistic about the success of diplomacy. But I realize that we cannot give up on diplomacy. Why do I say I'm pessimistic? Because what we see now in the reality, the real world, what we are witnessing now is actually the carrying out of the age-old adagium, the age-old, let us say, philosophy of Thucydides, the ancient Greek historian, who said that the strong will do what they can, and the weak will suffer what they must suffer. So this adagium is being played out in front of our eyes. What is happening is might becomes right. Who has the strength? Who has the capacity? Tend to do what they can do. And this is very, very distressing, very sad for the rules-based system that has been created after the Second World War by the Western powers themselves. So this, for us, in the global South, in the aspiring countries that look up to the West, to be very frank, that want to create a democracy like the West, we believed in the lessons of the West. We believed in trias politica. We believed in freedom of expression, freedom of speech. As I said, no, I want to really correct myself, you know. Actually, I ran for president 4 times. I lost 3 times. So what I'm saying is, I believe in democracy. I was a soldier. I was a general. At one time, I commanded the strongest military force in Indonesia. And then I was told to step down. In more direct language, I was fired. But I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. And the Constitution says very clearly that the president has the supreme power over the armed forces. So when my president asked me to step down, I did not hesitate. I said, yes, sir. So what I'm saying is we believed in democracy. We believed in human rights. We believed in the rules-based order. But now, all of a sudden, we see before our eyes, let us say what President Erdogan mentioned, innocent children, innocent women, unarmed men being massacred in front of the eyes of the whole world. So, so sorry. Sorry. So this is what I say. I do believe diplomacy
the only way, the best way. But I tend to be a bit sad. What this means is now every country has to prepare for the worst. This will take resources from us needed to eradicate poverty and eradicate hunger. Now we have to invest in a strong defense because we don't know what's going to happen next month, next week. So this is a bit saddening, actually. But yeah, if you want to ask me, I say that we have to go through diplomacy, but many countries now are assessing, I think, and are preparing for the worst. Preparing for the worst. Thank you.
Well, Indonesia, as we know, is known as a strong advocate for a more just and balanced global order. It sounds like you want to carry that tradition as well. From your perspective, what would an ideal global order look like?
Well, actually, we already have the format. We have the United Nations. We have many institutions which are doing great work. The WHO, many, the UNICEF, the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, they're doing very, very great work, overcoming hunger, you know, so we do have a format. Now, for instance, maybe, you know, there are demands that Security Council, the permanent members should be increased to represent the reality of this present world. We have big countries like India, big countries like Brazil, you know, many countries that represent a big segment of the world population that feel underrepresented in the highest organs of the United Nations. So actually, we already have a good format, and but then we are saddened that, you know, this good format that's proven effective, bringing down diseases, saving hundreds of thousands of lives everywhere, is in danger of being abandoned. So I would say let's not reinvent the wheel, build on what has been proven to be good, overcome its shortcomings, improve, build on what has been achieved. That's my outlook, my position.
We're also witnessing major shifts in global alignments. For example, the execution of me first policies, the changing of alliances, multipolarity. How do you interpret these changes, and what lessons should middle powers like Indonesia draw from these evolving patterns?
This is very interesting, but you know, Indonesia, by tradition, we have always been non-aligned. In fact, we are the founders of the non-aligned movement, together with India, Egypt, that time Yugoslavia. So we are the first founders of the non-aligned movement, and by tradition, every Indonesian government has to maintain this tradition. Otherwise, we will lose popular support. Our people do not want to be engaged into any alliances or blocs, especially military blocs. So we are by tradition neutral. So, for instance, my philosophy, which I announced early on in my campaign, is an ancient Asian philosophy, an ancient philosophy of the Eastern peoples, of the Asiatic civilizations, which is the philosophy taught to us generations. 1,000 friends too few, one enemy too many. It's a very clear and simple sentence, but very difficult to achieve. 1,000 friends too few, one enemy too many. But this is logical because, for instance, where I come from, Southeast Asia, 50 years ago, we were fighting amongst ourselves. We, neighbors, sending troops to each other's territories, claiming each other's territories. This is South Asia 50 years ago. You know, and then amongst the wise leaders at that certain time, at a certain point in history, the leaders of 5 Southeast Asian countries, right, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, and came to realize, hey, we have urgent agenda for our people. We have to deal with poverty and hunger. Why do we fight amongst ourselves? And then the idea of ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, came, and lo and behold, 50 years, no conflict. We still have differences, but we tend to use diplomacy. We tend to talk and talk and talk, and sometimes talk, is very tedious, but better talk than fight. That's our position, And that's the Asian tradition. Sometimes the talk can go on and on and on, but in the end, there is some sort of interaction, some sort of chemistry, and we tend to think of the common interest. So this is my philosophy also. So 1,000 friends. I want to bring Indonesia to a position of good relations with all the big powers, and so that we can be some sort of bridge and mediator, etc., etc., etc. This is our effort. So I announced, when I took over, I announced that I want to carry out a policy of the good neighbor. I want to be a good neighbor to all my neighbors, and even to the outlying powers, the great powers of the world. I want to be on very good terms. I want to respect all the great powers, as I hope they would respect us.
Mr. President, you touched on this a little earlier, but one of the most pressing challenges facing the world today is the humanitarian crisis in Palestine. In your view, what does this reveal about the current state of global leadership and diplomacy?
Well, I would like to say that, as I said in my first comments, that the situation in Gaza actually is teaching the world that many of the great powers that espouse great ideals now, in the eyes of many in the global south, have fallen short, basically. I mean, for instance, many of the Western powers, Western countries, come to Indonesia 30 years ago and come to us always teaching. You must do this, you must do that. Human rights, you're not very good in human rights. You're not too democratic. Always come and teach us. And we follow them. We follow them. And then, now we see that you come to us, you teach us human rights, but when you see flagrant violation of human rights in front, every day, every night on television, many of those who come to teach us, they keep quiet. So this is saddening, but it is a waking up. It makes us wake up. Oh, so that's it. You tell us, we must do this, we must do that, we must do this. And then you you violate, or you keep quiet, or you accept these violations. How can a 6-year-old boy or girl be guilty of anything? How can an armed mother be bombed and lose their house and lose everything? It's I think, something that's very hard to digest, actually. And that's why I try to do what I can. That's why I'm traveling tomorrow. Tonight I go to Cairo. I will consult with President Sisi. Then I'm going to Doha, and I go to Amman, consult with King Abdullah, and then what? People ask why. You are so far away. You are in Indonesia, but I cannot, because my people feel the attack on the innocent people of Gaza, of Palestine, of Lebanon, of Syria. It's like attacking them. Indonesia, of course, is majority Muslim, but I feel also that I must contribute what I can. So I already, for instance, I sent a small medical team together with the UAE. We have a medical field hospital. We are participating in that, and we are committed also to build another hospital in Palestine, in West Bank, maybe, and also in Gaza. And I've already announced that we are willing to accept wounded civilians that need medical care, also children and young students who have not gone to school for many years. We are willing to give them scholarships, and we already have some Palestinian students already, but not enough, but we are willing to increase that. And of course, after they complete their education and they complete their medical treatment, I mean, they must return to their homeland. So Indonesia, we are trying to convince everybody that the only real solution, a permanent solution, will come only by a two-state solution with an independent Palestine. But I also said that at that time we must also satisfy the concerns of the Israelis. They also must be guaranteed their right for security, their right of existence. And I think in the end there should be peaceful collaboration. I think that is the key to a real peace.
Yes, and we know that your continued support of the Indonesian hospital in Gaza has been key to providing life-saving medical services in the enclave. Now, if I could turn to the Indo-Pacific region, we know the region is increasingly becoming a stage for great power rivalry, a potential flashpoint. As a leading voice in ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, how does Indonesia plan to manage these tensions while also working with ASEAN to keep the region peaceful and stable?
Yes, as many times in many different fora, in many different instances, I said that our only way is engagement. Engagement and mutual respect. So in the end, I always propose collaboration. We have sometimes conflicting territorial claims. This is natural because we have been subjugated to many centuries of foreign domination, of colonialism, of imperialism. Some countries from somewhere came, they seem to like the wealth of some of our regions, and they say, okay, now this is ours. And they put up their flag. You see, so after a long period of struggle against colonialization and imperialism, most of the countries in our region achieved independence. But still, the leftover of those centuries, boundaries which are not clear, etc., etc., they are now the heritage given to us that we have to clear up all this mess. So we succeeded in cooperation with Vietnam. We have, I don't know, several decades of territorial claims and counterclaims, but we have resolved it a few months ago. I'm proposing also to my good friend and my good brother, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, let's solve the outstanding issues that we have with Malaysia. I also proposed joint development with the People's Republic of China, President Xi. We respect each other's legal position, but in the meantime, why don't we work together, right? We have overlapping maritime areas, zones. For instance, the PRC claim historically for thousands of years, Chinese fishermen have fished in those waters. And we claim for thousands of years, Indonesian fishermen have fished in those waters. So I said to President Xi, why don't we have joint development? Let's register how many hundreds of Chinese vessels, how many hundreds of Indonesian vessels, within the framework of the international limitations so that we don't have overfishing. Let's give licenses and everybody benefit. So I told everybody that 100% of zero is zero. So might as well work together in the meantime. And President Xi agreed. In fact, he agreed very fast. I proposed this to the Vietnamese. I proposed this to the Malaysians. So this is my approach. Let us work together to achieve common prosperity. Every race, every country, every religion in the world aspire to the same thing. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Everybody needs the basics. Prosperity, there is no prosperity without peace. So this is my approach.
Now, becoming president was a hard-fought battle for you. You pointed out that you contested several elections before finally winning last year. Now that you are leader, what is your vision for Indonesia, a nation of more than 280 million people, highly educated? What do you hope to achieve in your time as president?
Number one, I have to safeguard the nation's wealth, our natural resources, our wealth must be safeguarded to protect it and to make it useful for future generations. That's at most, because without the resources, then it's very difficult to achieve prosperity. Number two, we must have wise, correct, and common sense policies. That is the duty of every government, in my opinion. After being an amateur historian, I studied the history of many civilizations. The key to every country's well-being and independence is the ability of every country to guarantee food for its people, food security. And I think this is also the realization of the United Nations. the United Nations several years ago said that the future global crisis will be three. What they say, the F, E, and W: food, energy, and water. So likewise, in Indonesia, I have to guarantee food for my people. Number two, I have to guarantee energy for my people. And then water. Alhamdulillah, thank God, Indonesia, we have abundance of water. We have the other way around. Sometimes we have too much water, and then there's flooding, you see? And that's I would say that's our challenge, right? Like, we must manage our water, that it becomes useful. It doesn't become a natural disaster. And this is also a matter of education, matter of good governance. So that, and then of course, prosperity can only be achieved by the grasp of science and technology. Science and technology will enable us to industrialize. And so education, investment in science, technology, and in education is very important. In our budget, the number one, the highest item in our budget is education. I think it's the highest in the history of Indonesia. And then also I have rolled out a free meal for every children and every pregnant mother of Indonesia. So this is a massive program, very ambitious, but we are getting there. Sorry. At the end of 2025, we will provide meals for 82.9 million mouths by November 2025. So this is our program. We have to. I'm very determined to bring down poverty, especially extreme poverty, and I want to eradicate hunger. Nobody must go hungry in a nation that is a member of the G20. Thank you.
And finally, Mr. President, this year marks 75 years of Indonesia-Turkey diplomatic relations. Both nations share a deep historical bond and strategic partnership. As we look ahead to 2050, which will mark the centenary of this partnership, how do you see that bilateral relationship evolving, especially in addressing shared global challenges?
I'm very optimistic in this case. I'm very bullish in the sense that Turkey has a special place in Indonesia, the Indonesian people, you know. Indonesia being majority Muslim, the Ottoman Empire being at that time accepted as the leader of the Islamic community. Relations go through many centuries. Many parts of Indonesia feel the influence of the Ottomans. Many cases we were attacked by foreign powers. The Ottomans came to the assistance of our sultans. So there's this emotional bond. And I think even now, President Erdogan told us that there are Indonesian tourists coming to Turkey, I think in the figure of 200,000 every year. 200,000 Indonesians will visit Turkey. Usually after they go on the Umrah, then they will come to Turkey. And we have 50,000 Turkish citizens coming to Indonesia every year. Can you imagine? We are very far, but this is This is the close bond. And we are working very good in many fields. So I'm very bullish, very optimistic.
I can also attest that many Indonesian citizens now call Turkey a home and have set up delicious Indonesian restaurants in Istanbul to my benefit. So that's a great way of ending
You are
this
living
discussion.
here?
In Istanbul, yes, I am, sir. Yes.
Very smart, very smart.
I'm afraid we could be talking for hours, but I know you have a very packed schedule, Bapak President. That does bring us the end of our discussion. Can we please thank our honored guest, His Excellency Prabowo Subianto, the President of the Republic of Indonesia.
Mr. President, there is no better time than now that our esteemed guests. Thank you again to Russia, every GCC country.
Международного экономического форума, связанных с добычей углеводороботных благ и представители.
Your Excellency, President Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation, Your Excellency Prince Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, National Security Advisor to the King of Bahrain, Your Excellency Paul Mashatile, Vice President of South Africa, Your Excellency Mr. Ding Xuexiang, Vice Premier of the People's Republic of China, distinguished ministers, business leaders, ladies and gentlemen, participants of this forum. I'm honored here today to be invited and to speak in this forum, the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum 2025. This forum is a forum that combines and gathers leaders from the West, the Global South, the East, and where Eurasia meet. Indonesia views the summit as an opportunity to forge strategic trust, an opportunity to make deals in an increasingly complicated geopolitical situation. Deals that can benefit our shared survival and our shared success. On this occasion, I would like to introduce myself. I am Prabowo Subianto, President of the Republic of Indonesia. I've just been inaugurated on 20th October 2024. And this was my first International Economic Forum. So I apologize if I'm a bit nervous. Indonesia is the fourth largest country by population. Every year, there are 5 million new Indonesians arriving in this world. Every year, 5 million. That means every year, a group of people the size of Singapore. So in 10 years, there will be 10 Singapores in Southeast Asia, the size. I give this as an illustration of the size of Indonesia. This gives us great opportunity, but also gives us great challenge. Any leader of Indonesia must think how to feed 5 million more mouths every year, 5 million new school places, etc., etc. The hospitals,
and most important is the food. In my opinion, the duty of a government is first to protect its people. And to protect its people means to protect its people from hunger and from poverty and from the suffering of a challenging environment. Therefore, when I took over the government of Indonesia, my main priority was, first, to achieve self-sufficiency in food. Number two, self-sufficiency in energy. Number three, to improve the education level of Indonesians to be able to compete in the challenging era of the 21st century. And fourth, to speed up the industrialization of Indonesia. Indonesia has been fortunate in being given by the Almighty Lord vast economic resources. Vast economic resources. But these vast economic resources, if not wisely managed, actually can be a curse to our people. We have vast forests, we have vast minerals, we have a lot of commodities that are useful for the world. But this has to be managed well. And therefore, in my opinion, every country needs its own economic policy and its own economic philosophy. One of the big mistakes of many countries in Southeast Asia is that we tend to always follow the biggest and the most powerful power in the world. In the last 30 years, we see the dominance of the neoliberal capitalist classical free market philosophy, which basically tends to be laissez-faire. And the Indonesian elite followed this philosophy. And therefore, in my opinion, we have not managed to create a level playing field for all our people. There is vast growth. We have grown 5% continuously, especially the last 7 years. Yes, 35% in 7 years. But we have not managed to have this so-called trickle-down effect. The wealth remains at the top less than 1%. And this is not a formula for success, in my opinion. Therefore, my position is this, that each country must follow its own economic philosophy. The economic philosophy that is in tune and that can be accepted by each country's culture and each country's background. Therefore, I have chosen the path of compromise, the path of the best of socialism and the best of capitalism. Pure socialism, we have seen, does not work. It's utopia. Pure socialism, we see many chances and many cases people do not want to work. Pure capitalism results in inequality, result in only a small percentage
enjoying the fruits of the wealth. But our path is the path of the middle way. We want to use the creativity of capitalism, innovation, initiative. Yes, we need that. But we need government intervention to overcome poverty, overcome hunger, to intervene and to protect the weak. Because there's a danger in developing countries like Indonesia of what we consider the danger of state capture. The collusion between big capital business and government officials and political elite. In the end, the collusion between these two groups does not result in the alleviation of poverty and the widening of the middle class. Therefore, we have chosen the philosophy which, in essence and in simplicity, can be reduced to one sentence. The greatest good for the greatest many. That is our philosophy. Our government must work to bring the greatest good to the greatest many. And in this case, we have to have a clean government, free of corruption. And this, I think, is the key of rapid development. I am proud to stand here before you. In my 7 months of administration, we have achieved an increase in rice and corn production of around 50%. And this is the greatest increase production in the aggregate in the history of the Republic of Indonesia. And we have now in our government warehouses 4.4 million tons of rice, which is the largest reserve in the history of the Republic of Indonesia. In just a few months of my administration, we increased efficiency, we fight very strongly against corruption, we deregulate, we cut all the regulations which increase inefficiency, and we have seen the rapid results. I believe that if Indonesia can play a good role, a positive role in international relations, for instance, our participation in BRICS, we thank the government of Russia for supporting us to be a member of BRICS very fast. I think we are one of the fastest members to be accepted in BRICS. Also, Madam President, former President of Brazil and President of the New Development Bank, we are also accepted into the member of New Development Bank, also very fast. We thank also the government of China for supporting us and the government of South Africa. And we believe that together BRICS can contribute significantly to stability, prosperity of the world. I would like just to tell us a slight story, not part of my speech, but I was asked why I did not attend the G7, but I attended the St. Petersburg Forum 2025. And it's not because I did not respect the G7, it's because I gave my commitment to attend this forum before they invited me. So that's the only reason. So please don't read too much into the event.
Sometimes political observers, they want to read, is this a political statement, right? No. Indonesia, by tradition, always non-aligned. We respect all countries. Our foreign policy is very simple. One phrase: 1,000 friends, too few. One enemy, too many. We want to be friends with everybody. Only with friendship, collaboration, can we achieve prosperity. So thank you very much, President Putin, for inviting me. And because you invited me, I can be here today in this historic city, a city of heroism, a city of great patriotism, and as an amateur student of history, I followed the history of Russia, and I know the significance of St. Petersburg. And I had the honor of tending the cemetery of the victims of the war a few days ago. So thank you very much for this invitation. For many times I have said in many forums that Indonesia has chosen the path of non-alignment. We consider that this world must develop into a multipolar world and is developing towards a multipolar world. The world of unipolar centrality is past. This is the trend of history. This is what's happening in front of us. And so I value very much the leadership of Russia and the leadership of also China. And I want to be very frank, in the present world, in the global south, I think many from the global south will agree with me. Russia and China has never had double standards. Russia and China has always defended the downtrodden, has always defended the oppressed, has always fought for the justice of all peoples of the world. So I say this from my heart. Therefore, Indonesia wants to be a good partner and a strong partner. My experts tell me that in this first semester, our economic growth is more than 5%. Actually, it can really end up by the end of this year nearly 7% or even more. So this shows that we have chosen the right path and we are achieving our goals. I'm very convinced that we will achieve our goals within a few years. I've given the target 4 years self-sufficient in food, and we are experiencing that we can be self-sufficient in food within this 1 year. And we will be, in a few years, a net exporter of rice and corn. Also, now I've formed a sovereign wealth fund, which we call Danantara, which means the future energy of Indonesia. So this fund we make to protect the wealth of our children and grandchildren. The fund now has 1,000 billion US dollars of asset under management. And this year we have cash to invest of $18 billion. We want to work together with all strategic partners. We do not ask for assistance. We do not ask for handouts. We want to be a real partner. We want to achieve together real prosperity. We are open for business. We invite all groups from everywhere, especially Russian entities. Before I was elected, I was an entrepreneur, and I have good relations with Russian corporations. My brother has been active in this area for many, many years, I think more than 2 decades. So we know Russian corporations, and we would like to see Russia participate more in our economy. I've mentioned our foreign policy. We have always been, and we will continue to be non-aligned. We thank Russia for helping us and for achieving the Indonesian-Eurasian Union SIPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. And we have completed also negotiations with other groups, Bloc CP, TPP, also with the European Union SIPA, and we also request to join OECD. For us, the world and the planet is getting smaller. We will work together with you for peaceful collaboration, peaceful coexistence with all countries. We view with sincere regret the escalation and increase of conflict around the world, especially in the Middle East, and we hope that all parties can come to a peaceful resolution as soon as possible. I think, distinguished guests, I've come to the end of my short speech. I apologize if what I say is not what is expected of me, but what I say comes from my heart. Thank you very much.
So I would ask President Prabowo of Indonesia. Indonesia has always walked a fine line, has always, as you mentioned in your speech, been a non-aligned state. But as the world becomes more and more complicated, can Asian countries, ASEAN countries, stay non-aligned, or this is more and more not an option, or a very, very narrow option as we go forward?
Thank you. I think, in my opinion, it's not easy, but it's a line that we are determined to maintain. As I said, we respect all the great powers, we respect our neighbors, and we really believe that the only way for prosperity is collaboration, cooperation, and peaceful coexistence. And this is what we try to achieve. So we want to maintain good relations, and we try to convince all parties that the only way forward in this planet is getting smaller. We cannot afford rivalry that is going nowhere. Especially if it goes into confrontation. So No, I'm convinced that we have to maintain this path of non-alignment.
Mr. President, you were shaking your head when we were exchanging this question. What are your thoughts on, bringing adversaries to the table? Does it require, is defeat a prerequisite for dialogue, or we can, bypass this phase and go to dialogue? And there are so many crises in the world that cannot afford a victorious
Well, I have to say here that Nelson Mandela is one of my greatest icons, my greatest hero. I think it's an inspiration. He was put in prison for many years. He was sentenced to death, threatened to be sentenced to death, accused of many things. And his famous statement was that he was willing to give his life for the principle of freedom. But the greatness of Nelson Mandela, when he got out of prison, he worked for reconciliation with his former enemies. So this is the greatness of Nelson Mandela, and this I try also to carry out in my domestic politics. I reconciled with many of my former opponents. For instance, we had a very long rebellion, separatist rebellion in Aceh, very long. I think more than nearly 30 years. But can you imagine that the former commander of the Aceh Liberation Army, fighting against us for 25 years more, now he joined my party. He's in my political party. And he's now governor of Aceh, and I'm president of Indonesia. This shows that former enemies can come together. And I think this is the lesson of Nelson Mandela. I want to say I was a former soldier. And as a former soldier, I really know the value of peace and reconciliation. As a former soldier, I always try, now, even before, I always try to negotiate. Better to talk than to kill each other. This is my position. Always talk, always negotiate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would later go back to some aspects of your answer, mainly about the nuclear aspect of what's happening. But I'd like to go back to the other participants. Indonesia, Bahrain, and South Africa are three countries actively deepening relationship with Russia. From what I understood, this conflict, unfortunately, and I hope I'm wrong, might go for long. How are you planning to mitigate the fallout of this conflict in terms of secondary sanctions, in terms of political reputation in the world, in terms of pressure coming from your other allies? This is a very, very complicated situation. You don't want to be in any way, but that's reality. I will start with you, Mr. President.
I really don't understand, actually, your question. What secondary sanctions?
I'll make it simple.
Yeah. For Indonesia, we are very clear that we have always been non-aligned. In the Ukrainian situation, I think 2 years ago, we proposed immediate ceasefire in place. And I think at that time, the reaction from the Russian side was quite open, was quite positive, in fact. But the reaction from the Western governments, I have to be fair, not all Western governments, but many Western media virulently attacked my proposal. They said that I was proposing the peace of the cemetery. That was what many of these Western journalists accused me of. So we would always propose a peaceful solution. And at that time, I reminded everybody that even in Korea now, North Korea and South Korea, there's a demilitarized zone supervised by the United Nations. The war in Korea is officially not yet over, but there's a peaceful condition. So that was what we proposed, like to save the people of Ukraine on all sides, people of the Russian-speaking areas, just to save them, a secession in place. That was we are far from the place, but we want to promote a peaceful solution. So I don't understand who's going to give sanctions to us.
We were talking about friendship a while ago, and the friends of Russia in this panel. I will start from South Africa, and then Bahrain, and then Indonesia. And if China would love to comment on that, the floor is open. Are you surprised that a friend of Iran, of Russia, Iran, is under attack, and Russia did not step up to help that ally? This is at least one of the narratives in the media. Where is Russia in this conflict? As friends, are you surprised?
Okay, my position is this: is the logical position that each country is responsible and will defend its own national interest. So, being friends is being friends, trying to cooperate, trying to help each other. But being friends does not mean that every country must give their national interest to another country's national interest. So it will be the decision of every country to defend and protect its national interest. That is my position.
Mr. President, how your country is, let's say, taking advantage of the current economic situation in Russia. Like, people left, businesses are left back. There are opportunities in the market now for a country like Indonesia. How are you leveraging the situation?
As I mentioned that I have had good relations with Russian business entities, business groups, but mostly, I have to be very frank, they were interested and they are interested in coming into Indonesia. And because I think we have a lot of sectors that are still very, let us say, at the ground level, a lot of way to grow. And so basically it's mostly Russian groups that want to come to Indonesia. But before, our groups have joint ventures with Russian groups in commodities trading, oil and gas. So, and now we open our markets for Russian agriculture products. So, I think it's not that we're going to take advantage, but we are going to look for all opportunities.
Yeah.
because we have also been given a very heavy dose of tariffs from, everybody knows, right, from the American market. So we are forced now to look for new markets, Africa, Latin America, Eurasia. We are just concluded. We are in the process of concluding a free trade agreement with the Eurasian Union. So European Union, of course. So it's a matter of, for us, it's a matter of diversity. But yes, we are confident. We have our strengths, we have our ability, and our relations also with China is very good and very strong. So it's not that we are optimistic, to say the least. Thank you.
I will keep like 1 minute round for each participant. If there is anything I failed to ask or something that you have in mind to go, I'll move to you, Mr. President.
I'd just like to thank President Putin and the organizers of this forum for this great opportunity. I think we've learned a lot from each other. Thank you very much.